So my second artifact was a public service announcement, and it was a performance piece, and as you can see here, it was about alcohol. The project was a combination of my science class and my performing arts class. And as I said before, I love science and I love performing arts. So this was a project that I was really fond of because it's both of them combined to create a piece about alcohol. The essential question for this project was, how does alcohol impact our bodies and our community? And I will answer the part of how it impacts our bodies. So this is the actual science of the consuming alcohol. These two figures that are shown here, they look like bones, but they're actually neurons. And neurons are all over your body, and they're ones that the brain sends messages to your hand to complete a certain action. So when your brain sends a message or a signal to your hand telling it to move, the message is sent through the neurons. But since the neurons aren't long enough, they have to meet at a certain point, and that point where they meet is called the synapse, which is this opening right here. So since the neurons aren't long enough, when the impulse is sent and it reaches the end of one neuron, the message jumps to the next neuron by sending these little things right here called neurotransmitters, which are electrochemical messages. And with the consumption of alcohol, when somebody consumes alcohol, these neurotransmitters that are released, it releases some other type called GABA. And GABA, what it does is slows your body down, which is why when somebody consumes alcohol, they become really drowsy, they walk around sluggishly, and all their senses are not functioning as well as they would because GABA is being released into the impulse, and the impulse isn't reaching your body parts as fast as it normally would. Now, moving on to the community, how it affects our community and how we use our presentation skills, was that in our presentation, we had to use different forms of conveying our message. We had to really communicate powerfully as one of our leadership skills. And one of the things that we did was through dialogue, because we had to communicate on stage in order for our audience to understand what we were saying. We also used a domino effect, which is an effect used in theater and performing arts, which was we showed how after drinking alcohol, your brain can actually shrink. So we had different sizes of brains, and we all lifted our hands as a domino effect and show how the brain can actually shrink. We also used monologue when we went up there and spoke by ourselves when we stated facts and statistics about alcohol. Some strengths that I demonstrated in this project were performance skills, because you have to be really able to convey your message. You have to really communicate powerfully, and the way we did this was using our performance skills like cheating out, making sure that you're always facing the audience so that they don't feel disrespected. You had to really project, and you had to do different things, and you also had science knowledge, because you have to be knowledgeable about what you're saying. You can't just go up on stage and say something and not be knowledgeable about it, which is what I demonstrated previously, the science. Also, the leadership skill of communicating powerfully. All the ways, the way that we gesticulate, how we move our hands, is a form of communicating powerfully, because vocally is always not enough, and you have to use different movements of your body in order to perform this task. But as well as any other human being, I do have some areas of growth. And some of these things are memorization. I feel like I could have memorized my lines way better. Towards the end of the project, I didn't memorize my lines, so I had to improvise. And it was not the best thing to do, although it did turn out well, but I could have been more prepared. Also, body language. Back then, I didn't know how to use my hands. I didn't know how to move. I didn't know if to put them behind my head, my back, in front. I didn't know how to do that, and it really helps convey your message, and I still need to grow on that aspect. Also, I need to work on communication. I worked in a very large group, and we also didn't communicate as well as we could have, because some kids were absent sometimes, and some kids just wouldn't be participating, which affected our collaboration. And I feel like I could have stood up as a leader and really made this group come together. And of course, everything. You could always get better at everything. A human being never stops growing. You could always get better at every single thing, and that's what I think I have to work on, everything. Also, this project had connections to the real world, such as things like underage drinking, things like car crashes, divorce. If too much consumption of alcohol leads to problems in families and divorce, domestic violence inside of families, things like rape, abuse, regretful mistakes that can then lead to death. And these are things that we actually see in the real world and are really affecting people due to the consumption of alcohol.
what little part of the whole performance did you think was the most creative or interesting for the audience?
Yes, I think the most creative part was where, in order to say the science knowledge that I showed here, we didn't want to just put it out of place. So we actually had a teacher say it. No, actually, I acted as if I were a teacher, and as I were teaching the class about the science. So kids weren't not interested about the thing because there was an actual teacher teaching them. It wasn't just a random fact. So I think that was pretty clever because we didn't just integrate it wherever we wanted to. Yes.
What was the process like completing this PSA?
It was a very difficult process because we had to, as I said, it was our science class and our performing arts. So we did some of the stuff in biology, and when we learned there, we had to take it then to our performing arts class. And it was a really difficult process because you had to know what to take out from biology and what to implement into performing arts. Then we had to create a script based on what we had learned, and then memorize your lines and learn what movements, what performing structures you were going to use, and then come up with your final project. So it was a very long process, but it turned out to be great.
There was a slide there, and you were talking about all the problems that you can have with alcohol and its family problems and things like that. Car crashes, go to jail. Those are all personal things. Does this one connect back to your thesis from the standpoint of society? How does society play into these ideas of addiction and things on the individual level?
People who have problems with alcohol and the consumption of alcohol, the government directly doesn't support, doesn't help out with these problems that people have. And I feel like if the government really took a stand, society, people in power really took a standpoint against helping these people, it wouldn't be as big of a problem as it is now. You could even consider it an epidemic.
Follow up.
Yes.
Is there something that government could do that's not related to the individual? Like, is there something about society that is helping create the actual problem? So as opposed to not talking about solutions, but talking about the actual causes of why this problem is so big.
Yes, I feel like since there's a lot of poverty in here, people tend to consume alcohol there, and I feel like the way, maybe a possible solution is trying to decrease the amount of liquor stores that are in those low-income communities, because there's a lot of liquor stores. You don't see a lot of grocery stores where they can go and get healthier food, and say they go to other resorts like alcohol, and this eventually affects their families and leaves them at an even worse state than what they were in, and then eventually creates a ripple effect, and the society is even more corrupted than what it was before.
Slightly related, but switching gears, part of your process creating this PSA, I remember your group found some statistics about a younger drinking age in Europe, and I know you were struggling with how to incorporate that into your PSA, but I'm just curious now if you have any stronger opinions about whether or not the drinking age should be lowered, or if alcohol should be illegal, or what our laws should be around alcohol.
We are today. Yeah. So I don't think it should be illegal, but I think the age should to stay at 21, because I feel like underage drinking is a huge problem, and I don't think kids that have the body that are fully developed in order to consume alcohol, and it creates a lot of problems in high schools and in different environments, and I feel like the age should stay at 21 because it's when you're responsible and you're mature for yourself and you're responsible for your own actions.
Did you see anything in your life that it may be probably affected?
Yeah, so actually I have a lot of close family members like uncles and aunts that do drink a lot. So this project was also related to me really closely, and I try to really get that message out to my community, because it affects a lot of my family members when this problem where they have this problem, and I just wanted to put my message out there to prevent this for other families.
You said cheating out, you mentioned it is when you turn your back to the audience, that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Is that, what do you think the purpose of cheating out is?
I think the purpose of cheating out is to basically so the audience can always see your body, and so that the audience can just get to see your message. Because if I were to talk like this right now, you guys wouldn't be able to see me. It's disrespectful. I feel like it's just something part of acting. You always have to show your body because your body is the strongest way to convey your message.